Two metals have shaped civilization for 5,000 years. One preserves power, the other powers life. 1 ounce of silver, 31 grams, a disc thinner than a stack of 5 coins. If you watched the first video in this series, you know a strange fact about gold. A Roman centurion and a modern US Army captain earn almost exactly the same amount of gold per year. 2,000 years apart, same job, same metal, almost the same number. Gold doesn't move. Everything else does. Silver tells a completely different story, and honestly, it's a more important one. 2,000 years ago, a Roman legionary, not the officer, the ordinary foot soldier carrying the empire on his back, earned 1 silver denarius per day. That coin weighed about 3.5 grams, roughly a tenth of a troy ounce, and according to archaeological evidence from Pompeii, it bought him somewhere between 12 and 16 loaves of bread, a jug of wine, a day of life on the frontier. Today, a tenth of a troy ounce of silver is worth about $8. You can buy 2 loaves of bread with that, maybe 3 if they're on sale. So gold preserved its purchasing power across 2 millennia, 350 loaves then, 350 loaves now. Silver didn't. 12 loaves became 2. That's a 6-fold collapse. Does that mean silver is a worse store of value? No. It means something happened to silver that never happened to gold. Something deliberate, something political. Silver didn't lose its value on its own. It was stripped of its status, demoted by law, removed from the monetary system by decisions made in government offices, not in markets. The story of how a metal that was money for 5,000 years got fired from the job will tell you more about how power works than any economics textbook. But here's the twist. Right now, silver is doing something it hasn't done in 150 years. It's coming back, not as money, but as something that might matter even more. This video follows 1 ounce of silver through 2,000 years. In each era, how many days of work for 1 ounce? What does it buy? And why did the answer change? Silver became less monetary, but more necessary than when it was money. That paradox is the key to everything happening right now. Gold measured power, silver measured life. That's the simplest way to draw the line between the two metals. For most of human history, gold was for kings and treasuries. Silver was for everyone else. Soldiers, farmers, merchants, and the millions of ordinary people who kept the economy running. And silver was money first. Around 2,500 years before Christ, Mesopotamian merchants were using weighed pieces of silver as a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. The shekel, still used in Israel today, was originally a weight of silver, about 8 grams. Silver functioned as money for over 1,000 years before anyone thought to stamp a face on it. The first actual coins appeared around 630 BC in Lydia, modern-day Turkey. Within a generation, King Cyrus created the first bimetallic system, gold coins for large transactions, silver for daily life. In Athens, the silver drachma paid the soldiers who defeated Persia and funded the golden age of Greek philosophy. 1 drachma equaled 1 day's wage for a hoplite infantryman. Silver bought democracy its army. Then came Rome and the denarius. The Roman denarius is the most important silver coin ever struck. Introduced around 211 BC, it became the backbone of an economy that spanned 3 continents. Under Emperor Augustus, a legionary earned 225 denarii per year. Each coin weighed roughly 3.5 grams of silver, about a tenth of a troy ounce. That works out to about 9 ounces of pure silver per year. For that, he marched, fought, and bled at the frontier of the known world. Let's measure it. A legionary's 1 ounce, about 10 denarii, bought roughly 120 to 160 loaves of bread, a month of basic survival for a small family. A tunic cost around 60 denarii. A cow cost 100 to 200. Silver wasn't wealth. Silver was survival. A centurion, the officer commanding 80 men, earned between 450 and 1,800 ounces of silver per year. Remember those numbers. We'll come back to them. That ratio, 1 ounce buys roughly a month of bread, is our measuring stick. We're going to carry it through every era. And then Rome did what Rome always does to its money. It debased it. Under Augustus, the denarius was 95% pure silver. Under Nero, 80%. By 200 AD, 60%. by 300 AD, 5%. According to Pompey records and Diocletian's price edict of 301 AD, one denarius went from buying 16 loaves to buying one, a 94% loss in about 2 centuries. Not because silver changed, but because the government diluted it. Inflation isn't a modern invention. Gold suffered the same debasement of trust, but silver suffered it first and harder because silver was the coin in people's hands, the one they used every day, the one they noticed was getting lighter. After Rome fell, gold disappeared from daily circulation. Silver kept working. Around 755 AD, Charlemagne reformed Western Europe's money around the silver penny, a system that dominated for nearly 1,000 years. The British pound sterling was originally a pound weight of silver pennies, 240 of them. Let's measure it. In 13th century England, a skilled stonemason earned 3 to 4 pence per day. 1 ounce of silver was worth about 20 pence, 5 to 7 working days for that ounce. A sack of grain, several chickens, a week's food for his family. More days of work than in Rome because after the empire collapsed, circulating silver was scarcer. But 1 ounce still bought the same thing, basic life. When the world contracted, gold retreated into vaults and crowns. Silver kept circulating. That's the difference between a display piece and a tool. Gold is the portrait above the fireplace. Silver is the knife in the kitchen. And silver's greatest chapter was still ahead. In 1545, Spanish explorers found a mountain in what is now Bolivia, Cerro Rico, the rich mountain above the city of Potosí. It would become the most productive silver mine in history. Together with the mines of Zacatecas in Mexico, it poured tens of thousands of tons of silver into the world economy across 3 centuries. To put that in perspective, the city of Potosí, perched 4,000 meters above sea level, briefly became one of the largest cities in the world, larger than London or Paris at the time, all because of silver. This silver changed the world, not metaphorically, but literally. The Spanish minted it into the real de a ocho, the piece of 8, about 27.5 grams at 93% purity. This coin did something no currency had done before. It went everywhere. London, Amsterdam, Cairo, Manila, Canton. China, the world's largest economy, would accept only silver for silk, porcelain, and tea. Manila galleons carried Mexican silver across the Pacific. This was the first true globalization, and silver was its bloodstream. The word dollar comes from this era, the Bohemian thaler, the Spanish dollar, the American dollar, all descendants of the same coin. The dollar sign likely derives from the Pillars of Hercules on Spanish reals. The yuan, the yen, the peso, all trace back to the piece of 8. For 300 years, silver was the world's reserve currency, not gold. Silver. Let's measure it. Flooding Europe with silver pushed prices up 4 to 6 times over the 16th and 17th centuries, the price revolution. An ounce bought less than before, but it still bought something concrete. A few days of food, a basic garment, a worker's daily wage. Silver lost purchasing power, but it didn't stop being money. There was always enough of it to run daily commerce in a way gold, too scarce, never could. And then came the era that killed it. The 19th century was a slow-motion execution for silver. It didn't happen in one blow. It happened through a series of political decisions, each one pushing silver further from the center of the monetary system. Isaac Newton, the same Newton from the gold video, set the stage in 1717 when he fixed the gold to silver exchange rate in England at a level that effectively overvalued gold. Silver drained out of British circulation. By the end of the 18th century, Britain was on a de facto gold standard. The United States at its founding in 1792 took a different path. Alexander Hamilton pegged the dollar to both metals, 15 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. The American dollar was legally defined as 371 grains of pure silver. Let that sink in. The dollar was born as a silver coin. For decades, the two metals coexisted uneasily. But in 1859, the Comstock lode in Nevada unleashed a torrent of new silver onto the market. Prices began to slide. Meanwhile, Germany, unified in 1871, adopted the gold standard and dumped its silver reserves on the open market. The world was flooding with silver, and the pressure to choose one metal was building. Then came what millions of Americans would call the crime of 1873. On February 12th, 1873, Congress passed the Coinage Act, 67 sections of dense legal text. Almost nobody noticed what it contained, or more precisely, what it didn't. The standard silver dollar was simply absent from the list of coins authorized for minting. One paragraph, that's all it took. When silver miners brought their metal to the mint and were turned away, the outrage began. Farmers, crushed by deflation as the money supply contracted. The Panic of 1873 triggered the Long Depression, years of falling prices, failing banks, and spreading desperation. The silver movement erupted. Congress passed half measures, the Bland Allison Act of 1878, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1890, but neither restored free coinage. The climax came in 1896 at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. William Jennings Bryan, 36 years old, stood before the crowd and delivered one of the most famous speeches in American history. His closing line has echoed for over a century. "You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold." Bryan lost to McKinley, and in 1900, the Gold Standard Act made it official. The United States was on gold. Silver was no longer money. A metal that had served as the foundation of daily commerce for 5,000 years, from Mesopotamian bazaars to American frontier towns, was legally retired in a single generation. This is the moment the gold video and the silver video tell opposite stories about the same event. In the gold video, the gold standard is stability. In the silver video, it's the weapon that killed silver. Same fact, two meanings. If you've watched both, you see both sides. Silver didn't fail as money, it was removed by political decision. Its value was determined not by supply and demand, but by a vote. Remember that. We'll need it for the ending. Silver didn't fall in price, it was demoted by decree. The 20th century finished what the 19th started, and it did so blow by blow. In 1873, they removed silver's right to free coinage. Strike one. In 1900, they chose gold. Strike two. In 1934, Roosevelt signed the Silver Purchase Act, ordering the Treasury to acquire silver at prices fixed by the government. Private holdings above a certain threshold were effectively pulled into state control. Strike three. And in 1965, the Coinage Act removed silver from circulating coins entirely. Before 1964, every quarter was 90% silver. After, copper nickel sandwich. Strike four. A 1964 quarter contained 5.5 grams of pure silver, worth about $15 today. The 2026 quarter in your pocket is worth 25 cents. Same shape, same name, 60 times less real value. By 1971, when Nixon closed the gold window on live television, silver had been dead as money for nearly a century. Gold got its dramatic moment. Silver's death was quieter, longer, and more thorough. And then someone tried to bring it back. In the late 1970s, the Hunt brothers, Texas oil heirs, began buying silver. They accumulated roughly 100 million ounces. The price climbed from $6 to $49.45 on January 18, 1980. Then COMEX changed the rules. Silver Rule 7, restricting margin purchases. March 27, 1980, Silver Thursday. The price crashed 50% in a single session. The Hunts went from billionaires to bankruptcy. But Silver Thursday revealed something. The physical silver market is tiny. When real demand hits limited supply, price explodes, and when that threatens the system, the rules get rewritten mid-game. Let's measure it. After the crash, silver settled around $10 to $15. The average American earned about $15,000 a year. 1 ounce cost half a day's work and bought almost nothing special. For 4 decades, silver traded between $5 and $25. The gold to silver ratio, historically 15 to 1, stretched to 80, 90 over 100. By April 2025, it touched 105 to 1. Silver had rarely been cheaper relative to gold in modern history. A worker in the 2000s could buy an ounce with less than an hour of labor, more silver per week than a Roman soldier earned in a year. Not because silver was abundant, but because nobody was looking at it. 40 years in the desert, forgotten, dismissed. But under the surface, something was changing. Here's a question. What happens when investors and factories want the same thing and there isn't enough of it? Gold gets hoarded, silver gets consumed. That difference explains everything. When gold rises in price, people lock it in vaults. Almost all the gold ever mined, around 212,000 tons, still exists somewhere. Gold doesn't get used up. Silver is the opposite. Today, roughly 60% of all silver demand is industrial, not jewelry, not coins, not investment. Industrial, factories, machines, products that get built, sold, used, and eventually thrown away. Silver doesn't sit in a vault waiting to be admired. It disappears into the economy, atom by atom, device by device. Why silver? It has the highest electrical conductivity of any element, the highest thermal conductivity, the highest optical reflectivity. It's antibacterial. In most applications where it's used, replacing it means lower performance, higher cost, or both. Solar panels. Each one contains roughly 8 to 20 grams of silver, depending on the technology. The amount per panel is shrinking, but installations are growing so fast it more than compensates. In 2014, solar consumed 11% of silver demand. By 2024, 29%. By 2030, solar alone could require 20% or more of the entire global supply every year. Electric vehicles. A gasoline car uses 15 to 28 grams of silver. An EV uses 25 to 50. Every EV built is a net increase in silver demand. Electronics and computing. Every smartphone, server, and 5G base station uses silver in its contacts. Data centers have roughly doubled worldwide in the last decade, and the pace is accelerating. Now the constraint. 70% of all silver is mined as a byproduct of copper, zinc, and lead. To get more silver, you need to mine more copper, whether or not the copper market needs it. A new mine takes 5 to 8 years. Supply is growing less than 1% per year. It can't keep up. For 4 consecutive years, 2021 through 2024, global consumption has exceeded production. The cumulative shortfall, roughly 680 million ounces. In 2024, industrial demand alone hit a record, nearly 680 million ounces. Total demand reached about 1.2 billion ounces. Production was 820 million. The gap is filled by drawing down stockpiles, but stockpiles are finite, and silver that goes into industry doesn't come back. When it enters a solar panel, it's embedded in microscopic traces across millions of cells. When a phone is thrown away, the silver goes to a landfill. Extraction costs more than the silver is worth. Gold sits in vaults forever. Silver vanishes into civilization and never returns. Investors want bars and coins. Factories want paste and contacts. Both pull from the same shrinking pool. Investors hoard what industry burns. Both believe they're protecting the future. Both are right. Gold gets expensive. People hide it. Silver gets expensive. Factories burn through it anyway because you can't build a solar panel with gold. You can't wire an electric motor with platinum. Silver isn't precious because it's rare and pretty. It's precious because the 21st century runs on it. Now let's bring back the measuring stick and see what it shows in the present day. In February 2026, silver trades around $80 per ounce after an all-time high near $122 in late January. Gold is around $5,000. The gold to silver ratio sits in the low to mid 60s, down from over 100 a year ago. In 2025, gold gained roughly 64%. Silver gained about 147%, more than double. Let's measure it. A U.S. Army captain earns total compensation of roughly $92,000 to $130,000 in 2026. At $80 per ounce, that's about 1,100 to 1,600 ounces of silver per year. A Roman centurion earned 450 to 1,800. The ranges overlap for the first time in decades. The average American worker earns $60,000 to $70,000, about 750 to 900 ounces. A Roman legionary earned 27 to 37. Modern workers earn roughly 20 times more silver, real productivity gains. But when silver was money, the gap was much smaller. Today's gap is the measure of silver's demotion. The narrowing gap is the measure of its return. Now the bread test. In Rome, 1 ounce of silver, about 10 denarii, bought somewhere between 120 and 160 loaves. Today, at $80, 1 ounce buys about 20. That's a 6 to 8-fold drop. Gold's bread test is flat. 350 loaves in Rome, roughly 350 today, 2,000 years, same number. Silver's bread test is broken. And the reason it's broken is the most important lesson in this video. Silver didn't lose purchasing power because of inflation or oversupply. It lost it because in 1873, and again in 1900, and again in 1934, and again in 1965, governments took away pieces of silver's monetary status. 1873, they stopped minting it. 1900, they chose gold instead. 1934, they took it from citizens. 1965, they pulled it from coins. 4 laws, 92 years, 5,000 years of monetary history undone. Gold kept its premium because central banks still hold it. 20% of all gold ever mined. Virtually no central bank holds silver as a core reserve, not in any meaningful size. Not because silver is inferior, but because the system chose to keep gold and discard silver. The broken bread test doesn't prove silver failed, it proves that value is a political agreement. When the agreement changes, the value changes, no matter what the metal can do. Money is not a thing, money is a consensus. Silver was that consensus for 5,000 years. A handful of laws changed it in a single generation. Anyone who stores wealth in anything, dollars, crypto, real estate, should remember, what counts as money is a decision that can be reversed. But here's the reversal nobody voted for. The world decided silver wasn't money, then discovered it was something the economy literally cannot function without. Not precious like gold, necessary in a way gold has never been. Silver isn't money by law, but it's becoming money by necessity, through the things without which modern life doesn't work. So what is 1 ounce of silver today? First face, former money. 5,000 years, from Mesopotamian rings to Spanish pieces of 8 to American silver dollars, the coin in the soldier's pocket, the merchant's purse. It financed wars, built empires, created the first global economy, stripped of that role over 92 years and 4 laws. Second face, critical resource, the most conductive element on the periodic table. Solar panels, EVs, 5G, AI. 60% of demand is industrial. Unlike gold, it gets consumed, scattered across billions of devices, often unrecoverable. Third phase, bottleneck. 4 years of structural deficit. 70% of supply is a byproduct. New mines take 5 to 8 years. Solar, EVs, and AI are all accelerating demand at once. The math doesn't resolve. Gold shows you what people believe. Silver shows you what actually works. In Rome, it bought bread. In medieval Europe, it was the only money left. In the age of exploration, it became the world's first reserve currency. In the 20th century, politics killed it. And now, in solar panels, electric motors, server racks, it's back. Not as money, but as infrastructure. The question is no longer what silver is worth. The question is whether there's enough. 5,000 years as everyone's money, then fired with a stroke of a pen. 150 years in the shadows, and now it's in every solar panel, every electric car, every server, and the world is running short. Gold stands still, silver moves. It always has. Here's your homework, and if you watched the gold video, you know the drill. Take your annual income, divide it by the current price of 1 ounce of silver. That's your silver number. How many ounces your year of work is worth. Now take your gold number from the last video, your income divided by the price of gold. Divide the silver number by the gold number. What you get is your personal gold to silver ratio. Compare it to the historical average of 15 to 1. The gap between your number and 15 tells you everything about what happened to money over the last 150 years. It's a number no one taught you in school, but it explains more than most of what they did teach you. Drop both numbers in the comments. I want to see them. This isn't investment advice. This is a different kind of question. Not what should you buy, but what should you measure your life in? And who gets to decide? I'll see you in the next one. If this changed how you see money, subscribe to Wealth Code. The next video measures your life in ounces.